Imagine this: the sun is setting, the sky painted in soft shades of pink and gold. You step outside with a cool glass of iced tea in your hand, hoping for a quiet evening on the porch. But instead of peace, you're met with the sharp sting of mosquito bites and the relentless sound of buzzing wings. It's enough to drive even the calmest soul back indoors. For many of us, those little pests have stolen too many warm evenings that should have been filled with laughter, conversation, or simply the joy of listening to the crickets sing. But here's a secret: most of us were never told in our younger gardening years you don't need chemical sprays or expensive gadgets to reclaim your space. You don't need to douse your yard with toxins or light, smoky candles that barely last an hour. Instead, nature itself has already given us an answer, growing quietly in gardens and fields for centuries. There are plants, common, affordable, and beautiful, that can make mosquitoes think twice before invading your space. Today, dear friend, we'll explore 10 of these plants that not only add beauty and fragrance to your yard, but also create a natural shield against mosquitoes. Think of it as building a sanctuary where you can sip your drink, read a favorite book, or share a gentle evening with loved ones without the constant swatting. As we go along, I'll share not just the names of these plants, but stories, tips, and personal reflections on how they fit into the rhythm of a senior gardener's life. By the end, you may find yourself inspired to give your garden a new purpose, one of both beauty and peace. Do you remember the first time you planted flowers that bloomed almost effortlessly, filling your garden with bursts of orange and yellow? For me, it was marigolds. They're the kind of flowers that seem to smile even on the hottest summer days, lifting the spirit with their color. But behind that cheerfulness lies a secret strength. Marigolds are more than just pretty faces. They carry within their petals a natural compound that mosquitoes can't tolerate. While we enjoy their brightness, those buzzing nuisances are driven far away, leaving us in peace. What makes marigolds so special is how forgiving they are. You don't need perfect soil or a green thumb to see them thrive. In fact, they do better in rougher conditions, almost as if they become tougher when life gets harder, something I think many of us can relate to. A neighbor of mine, a retired school teacher, once planted a low marigold border around her patio simply because she liked the color. She didn't even know about their mosquito-fighting reputation at first, but she soon noticed her summer evenings were calmer, less interrupted by the constant swatting and scratching. That little row of flowers gave her back the joy of sitting outside with her knitting in hand, humming old hymns as the day wound down. If you're considering adding marigolds, think of them as both guardians and greeters. Place them along pathways, in pots on the steps, or circling a seating area. Their scent forms an invisible barrier, while their blossoms welcome anyone who enters your garden. The best part is how accessible they are. You can find trays of marigolds at nearly any nursery or even the grocery store, often for just a few dollars. With a little water when the soil dries and plenty of sunshine, they'll reward you all season long. And here's something delightful to keep in mind. Studies have shown that marigolds can protect an area several feet around them, meaning that one small patch can guard an entire porch. It's almost like having a little army of cheerful sentinels keeping watch as you rest. Isn't it wonderful when something so simple offers so much? When I see marigolds now, I don't just see flowers. I see a reminder that sometimes the most effective solutions are also the most joyful. In the garden, beauty and usefulness often walk hand in hand, and marigolds prove that point with every golden bloom. Have you ever brushed your hand across a lavender plant on a warm afternoon and felt the air change? That calming fragrance seems to slow the world down for a moment, almost like taking a deep breath after a long day. For us, Lavender is a balm for the spirit-easing tension and carrying memories of sachets tucked into drawers or teas brewed for sleep. But for mosquitoes, lavender is something else entirely. It's overwhelming, disorienting, and unbearable. The very scent that soothes our minds is like a blaring alarm to them, sending them away before they ever reach us. I once met a couple who had retired to a small countryside home. They loved entertaining friends in their garden, but their evenings were often cut short by swarms of mosquitoes. Instead of giving up their gatherings, they lined the borders of their patio with lavender. Within weeks, the problem seemed to melt away. They told me that lavender didn't just drive off mosquitoes, it transformed their entire experience of the space. Guests would lean in to breathe deeply of the blooms, and conversations lingered long into the night without the usual interruptions. That story has stayed with me because it shows how a simple plant can restore life's small joys. Lavender is also surprisingly practical to grow. It thrives in sunny spots with soil that drains well. If your yard has heavy clay, a raised bed or container with gravel mixed in will make a big difference. Watering is best done sparingly. Lavender prefers to dry out between drinks. Think of it as a plant that values moderation, much like the steady rhythms we learn to appreciate more as we age. And when it blooms, don't forget that its beauty extends beyond the garden. Cut stems can be dried for fragrant sachets in your closet, infused into oils for relaxation, or even sprinkled into baked goods for a gentle flavor. What I love about lavender is its dual gift. It gives peace to people while creating chaos for pests. That contrast feels symbolic, doesn't it? The same qualities that calm one being can unsettle another. When I plant lavender, I feel as though I'm building a bridge between beauty and function, between the memories of old-world gardens and the practical need for a mosquito-free space. For every mosquito that turns away, we gain one more moment of stillness, one more evening reclaimed. And that, to me, is worth every stem of purple bloom. Think back to when you first saw a cat rolling around in pure bliss with a sprig of catnip. It's a sight that never fails to make us smile. But here's the twist. While cats adore it, mosquitoes can't stand it. In fact, scientists have found that catnip is many times more effective at repelling mosquitoes than some of the strongest chemical sprays on the market. Imagine that a humble herb that entertains your pets while sending pests packing. I'll never forget visiting an old friend in Iowa who kept a wide patch of catnip at the edge of her vegetable garden. She had grown up hearing her grandmother talk about how dried catnip leaves were burned in little bundles to keep the insects away during summer gatherings. Her grandmother's wisdom, once passed off as an old wives' tale, was confirmed decades later by university research. My friend laughed as she told me Grandma was right all along. And sure enough, while we sat sipping lemonade in her backyard, I noticed the mosquitoes weren't nearly as bothersome as usual. Catnip is almost too easy to grow, which can be both a blessing and a challenge. Left unchecked, it can quickly spread beyond its intended spot, much like mint. That's why planting it in containers or clearly defined beds is the best way to keep it manageable. It thrives in full sun, tolerates poor soil, and doesn't fuss over too much water. For those of us who appreciate low-maintenance gardening, it's a gift. And if you enjoy drying herbs, catnip's leaves can be gathered for tea with a calming effect, similar to chamomile, gentle, soothing, perfect for winding down in the evening. The beauty of catnip lies not just in its ability to repel pests, but in its versatility. You can rub fresh leaves on your skin for quick protection, let your cats have their playful fun, or use the dried leaves to brew a comforting cup of tea. Few plants offer that many layers of usefulness in such a simple form. And perhaps That's the lesson catnip quietly teaches us. Sometimes the overlooked, underestimated things in life turn out to be the most powerful. In its green leaves and delicate flowers, catnip holds both joy and protection, making it a perfect companion for a garden that welcomes peace. Do you remember the first time you caught the scent of crushed lemon balm leaves? That sudden burst of citrus is as refreshing as a cool breeze on a sweltering day. It's no coincidence that mosquitoes dislike it so intensely. Within its leaves are the same natural compounds used in citronella candles, but here they're concentrated and alive, working around the clock. Unlike a store-bought candle that burns out in a few hours, a thriving patch of lemon balm never tires of protecting you. I once knew a couple in Florida who moved into a home surrounded by marshland. Summers were almost unbearable because of the swarms of mosquitoes. Rather than surrender their evenings, they filled a few raised beds near their patio with lemon balm. By midsummer, the plants had grown lush and fragrant, creating a living wall of protection. What struck me most was how often they would brush against the leaves while walking by releasing that bright lemony oil into the air. They joked that it was like having dozens of invisible candles, flickering at once, only stronger and more dependable. Their grandchildren loved running through the beds, carrying that clean scent on their hands for hours afterward. Lemon balm is a generous plant, sometimes too generous. It spreads easily, almost as if eager to cover every inch of ground. That's why I often recommend giving it boundaries. Plant it in containers, raised beds, or spots where its spreading won't overwhelm delicate neighbors. It tolerates both sun and partial shade, forgiving even if you forget to water it now and then. For seniors who may prefer easy care plants, lemon balm is a friend. Beyond mosquito defense, its leaves can be steeped for calming tea added fresh to summer drinks or dried for winter use. What I find beautiful about lemon balm is its dual role. It is both a defender and a comforter, warding off what harms while offering what soothes. Isn't that what we often long for as we get older? Something steady and reliable, yet also uplifting and gentle. Every time I pass by a patch of lemon balm in my own garden, I pause for just a moment to rub the leaves between my fingers. The scent is a reminder that peace doesn't always come from big changes. It can come from small leaves quietly working in your favor. Close your eyes and picture a hot afternoon when you plucked a mint leaf, rolled it between your fingers, and breathed in that sharp, cooling fragrance. Peppermint has a way of waking up the senses, of refreshing even the most tired spirit. But for mosquitoes, it's not refreshing at all, it's disorienting. The menthol in peppermint overwhelms their ability to smell and track, leaving them lost in a haze. It's almost like tossing a smoke bomb into their navigation system, making it impossible for them to find you. I remember visiting my aunt in Kentucky, where her backyard was lined with clay pots, overflowing with peppermint. She told me she'd started planting it after reading about its mosquito-repelling qualities, but soon she realized it became part of her daily rhythm. She'd clip sprigs for iced tea, tuck fresh leaves into fruit salads, and crush some in her palms before heading out to sit on her porch swing. While we talked one evening, I noticed something remarkable. The usual cloud of mosquitoes that hovered around me in my own yard was absent there. She smiled knowingly and said, "The peppermint's doing its job." Peppermint, however, comes with a little caution. It grows quickly and aggressively, eager to spread its roots in every direction. If planted directly in the ground, it can overrun flower beds and even crowd out weaker plants. The best solution is to grow it in containers, which allows you to enjoy its benefits without worry. Peppermint loves moist soil and partial shade, thriving best in conditions that mimic its natural home near stream banks. For seniors who may want a plant that thrives with little fuss, peppermint is as dependable as it gets. What makes peppermint truly special is its versatility. Beyond chasing away mosquitoes, it enhances countless recipes from summer drinks to roasted lamb and even homemade tea for soothing digestion. You can also make a simple, natural repellent by steeping fresh leaves in witch hazel, creating a spray that's as gentle on your skin as it is hard on pests. To me, peppermint is more than a herb. It's a reminder that some of the strongest defenses in life are also the sweetest comforts. Just as its leaves cool the tongue and calm the stomach, they also carve out a circle of peace in your garden, keeping the world's little nuisances at bay. Every garden has that one plant, with a story so rich, it feels like a bridge to the past. Tansy is one of those plants. With its clusters of golden, button-like flowers, it may look harmless, but hidden in its leaves is a powerful compound that insects have avoided for centuries. Long before refrigeration, people would wrap meat in tansy leaves to keep it fresh, relying on its ability to repel flies and other pests. In old farmhouses, dried bundles were hung near windows and doors like little shields, standing guard against intruders too small to see. I once toured a restored colonial home in Virginia, where tansy was growing along the fence line. The guide explained that the homeowners of the 1700s planted it deliberately, both for its beauty and for its strength as a natural protector. Hearing that, I couldn't help but think about how gardening has always been about more than just plants. It's about survival, ingenuity, and finding harmony with nature. For those of us who now garden for peace and enjoyment, it's humbling to know the same plants that brighten our flower beds once kept whole families safe from disease-carrying insects. Growing tansy today comes with some caution. It's tough, resilient, and sometimes too ambitious for its own good. Left unchecked, it can spread beyond where you want it, and in some regions, it's even considered invasive. That's why I encourage careful placement, perhaps in a contained bed or a pot, where its bold character won't overwhelm other plants. Tansy thrives in full sun and doesn't demand much water once it's established. A little goes a long way, so just a few plants can make a real difference. What fascinates me about tansy is its reminder that strength often comes with responsibility. Just as we balance wisdom with restraint in our own lives, tansy teaches us to use nature's gifts thoughtfully. It's not the gentle companion that lavender or marigolds may be, but it has its place as a guardian when treated with respect. Whenever I see those bright golden blooms standing tall in the breeze, I think of the generations before us who leaned on tansy as a protector. It connects us to their resilience and reminds us that every garden holds both beauty and history woven together. Few herbs are as beloved in the kitchen as basil. Its leaves carry the flavor of summer itself, fresh, peppery, and just a little sweet. We toss it into pasta sauce, scatter it over salads, or steep it into refreshing drinks. Yet, basil has a secret life outside of the kitchen. It's a natural mosquito repellent. When its leaves are brushed or harvested, they release a cocktail of oils, eugenol, linalool, and citronellol that mosquitoes find unbearable. For us, those same oils are delicious. For them, they're a clear warning to stay away. One summer, I visited a neighbor who kept planters of basil flanking her back steps. She explained it wasn't just for cooking. Every time someone brushed past the pots, the scent filled the air and the mosquitoes seemed to vanish. That evening, as we sat down to share a simple meal of tomato salad and crusty bread, she pinched a few leaves, releasing that unmistakable fragrance. Not a single mosquito bothered us all through dinner. It was a small miracle, and one achieved with nothing more than a humble herb most of us already grow. Basil does best in warm weather after the danger of frost has passed. It loves sun and appreciates consistent watering, though the soil should never stay soggy. To keep it producing tender leaves, pinch off flower buds as soon as they appear. For those with limited space, basil thrives in pots and even window boxes, meaning you don't need a sprawling yard to enjoy its gifts. Different varieties add layers of protection. Lemon basil brings a citrus note mosquitoes detest, while African blue basil is particularly potent. What I admire most about basil is how seamlessly it blends beauty, usefulness, and daily life. It doesn't just stand in your garden as a barrier. It feeds you, comforts you, and joins your meals. To me, that feels like a metaphor for the best things in our later years. Simple pleasures that serve more than one purpose, nourishing body and spirit alike. When I brush against basil leaves on a summer evening, I feel grateful for how nature hides these quiet helpers in plain sight, waiting for us to notice their gifts. There's something timeless about rosemary. Its woody stems and needle-like leaves have been treasured for centuries, not only for the flavor they lend to roasted potatoes and lamb, but also for their power to ward off pests. The same aromatic oils that make rosemary such a staple in the kitchen, camphor, cineole, and pinene, create an invisible shield against mosquitoes. It's as though this plant, hardy and fragrant, was designed to serve both our plates and our peace. I remember a visit to a Mediterranean-style garden where rosemary grew in great bushy hedges. The host, a cheerful woman in her 70s, told me that during outdoor feasts in her childhood, her family would toss sprigs of rosemary onto glowing coals. The air would fill with its smoky, piney fragrance, adding flavor to the grilled food while keeping mosquitoes at bay. That tradition carried into her own backyard gatherings. As we sat there, I felt part of something ancient and comforting, a rhythm of life that stretched back generations, where plants were as much about protection as they were about pleasure. Rosemary is a plant that rewards neglect. Too much fussing, overwatering, overfeeding can actually weaken it. Once established, it thrives in dry, well-drained soil and full sun. In fact, a bit of stress from heat or drought intensifies its oils, making the plant even more fragrant and effective at repelling pests. Seniors who prefer low-maintenance gardening will appreciate rosemary's toughness. With just an occasional deep watering, it will stand strong year after year, providing beauty, scent, and utility. What makes rosemary remarkable is how it blurs the line between necessity and delight. You can clip a sprig for dinner-fashion skewers from its sturdy stems, or let its fragrance drift across the patio as you relax outdoors. And while it works tirelessly to keep mosquitoes at bay, it does so with elegance, filling your garden with silvery foliage and a sense of resilience. To me, rosemary is a reminder that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it smells sweet, grows quietly, and supports us in ways we might not notice until we stop to breathe deeply. When most people hear the word citronella, they think of candles flickering on a summer night, their smoke chasing away mosquitoes, at least for a little while. But the truth is, those candles are only imitations. The real magic comes from citronella grass itself, the living source of that lemony fragrance. Unlike the diluted oils in store-bought products, the plant offers concentrated protection, and when the breeze moves through its tall, graceful blades, it releases a scent that mosquitoes simply can't stand. I recall visiting a community garden where several large clumps of citronella grass stood like sentinels at the corners of the gathering area. The gardeners explained that it wasn't just decorative, it was their secret weapon against pests. They'd often crush a few leaves and rub the oil directly onto their skin before sitting down for outdoor potlucks. One man, a retired park ranger, swore that it worked better than anything he'd bought at the store. Watching families enjoy meals without constant swatting felt like proof enough. Citronella grass is best suited to warm climates where it can grow into impressive mounds that return year after year. If you live in a cooler region, it adapts well to large containers that can be brought indoors when frost threatens. Like many tropical plants, it enjoys full sun and consistent watering, though it's not overly demanding. What I love about growing it is how practical it becomes. The leaves can be harvested to make homemade sprays or infused into oils, giving you a natural repellent without added chemicals. There's something symbolic about citronella grass. It stands tall, swaying in the summer air, not loud or showy, but quietly protective, as it reminds me of those friends or family members who watch over others without ever needing recognition. And just as it forms a barrier against mosquitoes, it helps create a space where laughter meals and quiet reflection can unfold undisturbed. In that sense, citronella grass is more than just a plant. It's a guardian of the simple joys that make summer evenings worth remembering. Among all the plants we've talked about, the American beautyberry feels like the grand finale. At first glance, it's a modest shrub with arching branches and clusters of bright purple berries that appear in late summer. Birds adore the fruit, and gardeners often grow it for its ornamental charm. But hidden in its leaves is something extraordinary natural, compounds so powerful at repelling mosquitoes that even scientists in the U.S. military have studied them. It's as if this native plant carries its own invisible shield, protecting everything within its reach. A few summers ago, I visited a friend who had planted a pair of beautyberry shrubs along her back fence. She invited me to sit with her under their shade during one of the worst mosquito seasons we'd had in years. To my amazement, we enjoyed our tea without a single bite. She laughed and said, "Those bushes are better than bug spray." Later, she told me about how indigenous peoples had long crushed the leaves to rub on their skin as protection against pests, a tradition now confirmed by modern research. Beautyberry is wonderfully resilient. It grows in many types of soil, from damp clay to sandy stretches, and it tolerates both full sun and partial shade. Once established, it asks for very little care, yet rewards you with season after season of beauty and usefulness. The berries not only feed wildlife, but also bring a burst of color that feels almost magical in the garden. For us, the leaves can be used fresh or boiled into a natural spray, offering protection without the harshness of chemicals. To me, beautyberry represents the perfect balance of grace and strength. It is beautiful enough to stand as a centerpiece in any yard, yet tough enough to fend off mosquitoes, ticks, and even fire ants. When I see those jewel-toned berries glowing against the green, I think of resilience, the kind that grows quietly, unassumingly, until one day you realize how much it's been protecting you all along. Beautyberry isn't just a plant. It's a reminder that nature in its wisdom often hides the most powerful gifts in plain sight. Now that we've explored these 10 powerful plants, let's talk about how to make them even more effective. Imagine your garden not as a random collection of flowers and herbs, but as a carefully arranged fortress. This strategy, often called layered defense, works just like a team of watchful guardians, each plant contributing its own strengths, overlapping to cover the weak spots of the others. Instead of relying on a single line of protection, you create circles of safety that mosquitoes struggle to break through. I once visited a landscape in Florida designed by a gardener who specialized in natural mosquito control. She arranged citronella grass and beautyberry shrubs along the outer borders, creating a strong primary barrier. Then, closer to the house, she added marigolds and lavender in neat rings around patios and doorways. Basil and rosemary were tucked into pots by the steps, ready to release their oils each time someone brushed past. The result was astounding. Even in the heavy humidity of summer, Families could enjoy outdoor dinners without constantly reaching for bug spray. She told me her clients often reported a 90 to 95% drop in mosquito problems, a testament to how powerful these overlapping layers could be. What's remarkable is that this method is accessible to anyone. You don't need acres of land or a professional designer. A small yard patio or even a collection of containers can be arranged with the same thoughtfulness. Place taller plants like citronella grass or beautyberry toward the edges. Use marigolds or lavender as cheerful borders. And keep herbs like basil and mint in spots where you naturally walk or sit. Each time you touch them, they'll release protective oils into the air, adding one more invisible layer to your shield. To me, layered defense isn't just a gardening trick, it's a life lesson. Protection, comfort, and beauty are strongest when they work together. Just as friendships, family ties, and community overlap to support us in our later years, so too can plants combine to create harmony in our outdoor spaces. The result is more than a mosquito-free garden. It's a sanctuary, a place where every leaf and bloom contributes to your peace. When you step outside into that kind of space, you don't just feel safe from pests, you feel surrounded by nature's quiet generosity. As we bring this journey to a close, I invite you to picture your outdoor space not as a battleground against mosquitoes, but as a sanctuary where beauty and peace come together. Every plant we've explored, whether it's the cheerful marigold, the calming lavender, or the noble beautyberry, offers more than just pest control. They give us color, fragrance, flavor, and a sense of purpose in our gardens. By planting them, we aren't just keeping mosquitoes away. We are creating an environment that nurtures us in return. I think often about how gardening mirrors life itself. Just as plants need sun, water, and care to thrive, so do we. And just as some plants repel pests while others invite pollinators, we too can choose what we keep close and what we let go. The older I get, the more I realize that gardening isn't only about flowers or vegetables, it's about cultivating peace, resilience, and joy in small, steady ways. A border of marigolds, a pot of peppermint, or a hedge of rosemary can be more than garden features. They become symbols of the quiet strength that grows with age. What matters most is how these choices transform daily life. Imagine hosting a family barbecue where your grandchildren run freely without the sting of bites. Picture yourself reading a favorite book outside, wrapped in the scent of lavender, undisturbed by buzzing wings. These are the moments that matter, the simple joys that make summer evenings golden. And it's incredible to think that by planting just a few thoughtful companions, we can reclaim these experiences for ourselves. So, dear friend, I encourage you to look at your yard with new eyes. Which plant speaks to you most? Which one feels like it belongs by your steps, your patio, or your garden gate? Share your thoughts, and let's continue this conversation together. Because in the end, your hands, whether planting a seed or brushing against a leaf, still have the power to create beauty and comfort. Until next time, may your evenings be filled with light breezes, calm laughter, and mosquito-free peace. Happy gardening, dear friend.